2015, after the famous city fell prey to a terrorist attack that left 137 people dead. A trend soon developed. Last year, the French town of Nice was also shocked after a truck driver drove into a market, killing 87 people. Belgium Christmas market also became a target and 12 civilians died. Now, last week, an attack occurred in London, and around the same time, a bomb blast took place in Nigeria. This received very little coverage, while the London blast, or the London attack, still makes headlines today. Now, are we bored? Are we numb? Or have we stopped caring about the conflict, specifically in the Middle East and on the African continent, where hundreds seem to die weekly and monthly? To talk to us about this, I'm joined in studio by Channel Africa analyst Izak Kgomo. A very good morning to you, Izak. How do you view the way that the world, the media, the public, how we look at these kind of attacks on social media and mainstream media?
Morning, Eben. No, thank you. That's a very interesting subject. Basically, when it comes to that, that's a fact, as you're saying, that's the truth. But then it has got its reasons, because basically most of the news in the world, and also local news, is being controlled by mainstream media, Western mainstream media. And mainstream media has got its own, what could I say, its own discourse, its own narratives, and it's also got its own importance. I mean to say, it's targeting certain issues. And Africa, it's not within the radar of European or Western mainstream media.
Black lives don't matter, is that what you're telling me?
Well, exactly. Let's put it that thing. Black lives never mattered. They've never mattered in the history of Western world.
But what about the public? Because I can look at mainstream media and I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100% that black lives never mattered in mainstream, especially Western media. Never did. It's a fact. But when I look at social media phenomena and that sort of thing now, when we have to pray for Paris and put up a French flag on our social media platforms, we all do it. Everyone does it. Blacks, whites, everybody.
In fact, social media is wonderful because basically there's nobody who's regulating it, so you take it with a pinch of salt. But again, social media is reactive because the guys of social media, they're actually going to react on information that they've received, and that information comes from mainstream media. And also the discourse, the narratives, and also the treatment which has been given by the mainstream media, it tends to form the basis of the discussions that are taking place. Yeah, what we need is really diversity in media. You know, I mean to say, we've got alternative media. And when I say alternative media, I'm not talking about social media. Yeah. I mean other
diversity
media,
in ownership.
Diversity in ownership, exactly. That's the most important thing, diversity in ownership. I mean to say the people, media ownership is a very important thing that has been well said by Noam Chomsky. You know, when you talk about creating consent, you know.
Is there a kind of third force that even if we have ownership, like in some instances we have ownership in South Africa, but then pressure comes from sponsors and those that pay the bills and so forth, sort of, let's call it third forces that change the narrative?
Well, I don't think so. The people who can change the narrative are people who put up the most adverts in the paper. And the people who put up the most adverts in South African papers is the government. Yeah, that's where the money really comes from. Yeah. But again, you find that it comes with the treatment and also the quality of people that we've got as journalists or media practitioners. You know, I mean, there's a very important thing about reporting. You see, we at Channel Africa, take for example Channel Africa, we are relaunching our image. And you know, relaunch of our image, we're talking about reporting the African perspective. Yeah. Now, in the African perspective, we're not going to become a propaganda tool. We are going to contextualize issues. Now, there's a thing that with our local media practitioners, they don't have that ability to contextualize news. The news reporting that they've got, the treatment is very narrow. They don't go to the whole hog of actually painting the whole picture. And that also counts.
Is that got to do with the fact that newsrooms are being juniorized and staff are being paid less and younger people are being put in to do senior jobs in newsrooms?
That's one of the very important things. You know, I mean, to say that right now to report on Africa, you've got to be almost a student of political science and also of history.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you talk about the DRC, you just cannot take it from what has been said in the UN, yeah, or whatever it is. You've got to go to the history of the thing. I mean, a typical example, we had the passing on of Tshisekedi. Yeah, he was being portrayed as being a father of democracy in the DRC.
Yeah.
But how many people know that Tshisekedi, basically, he was Lumumba's advisor? But then he broke away from Lumumba and he joined the people in Kasai. And the people in Kasai, he actually fostered the breakaway of the Kasai region together with Chombe. Chombe was in Katanga, he was in Kasai. And he was instrumental in the putting down and killing of Lumumba. People do not know that. And not only that, he was actually instrumental. He joined Mobutu, and he was instrumental in everything that was done there.
They always tell us, no, our audiences are not interested in this kind of news. We simply don't have enough eyeballs. This is the kind of justifications that we hear in newsrooms day in, day out. How do we change this kind of narrative, and how do we change this kind of attitude inside of newsrooms?
But I think the newsroom have got to come to know what is happening on the ground. I mean, the South African the South African population is getting younger. And the youth are really sort of craving for real African stories. And you say that people are not interested in those, yes. Now, those they're referring to the old apartheid mainstream audience. You know, South Africa, again, it's a very skewed country. Yeah, when you look at the whole thing. I mean, to say that this has been actually studied again. Yeah, it's a country which is based on alterity. The part of the population, let's say the white or the upper middle class, they tend to look at themselves from a Eurocentric point of view, and they treat South Africa from that angle. This was well put by an Indian High Commission some 10 years ago. He was actually coming to the end of his term of tour, and then he called in the media to come and talk to them and just have a last get-together. In his comment, he said that South African media, when it reports on South Africa, it reports as if they're out of South Africa, as if they're not South Africans. They're not endogenic. Now, that is a problem with South Africa, but it comes from the old apartheid things where things were looked upon from Eurocentric, and it's a white thing. I mean, say like the statements of Zille. She's divorced from the reality of South Africa.
No, absolutely. That was very clear. What came out of that is that distance that remains there. And the justifications are still the same. But in this age of social media, is it then not for us as the practitioners? You're talking about youth, and 60% of Africa is young people. Is it not our duty then to find alternative ways, like through social media platforms, ways to inform and to keep young people interested in what's happening on the continent?
Exactly. It's up to the media practitioners to do that. But I mean to say, are they up to the job? That's the very big thing. I mean, in fact, personally, I'm not like to praise myself. Most of them are not.
Harsh but true. Izak Kgomo is one of the most respected voices on African matters, not just in South Africa, but all over the continent. Izak, thank you very much for joining us. We're talking, of course,